Hey guys, Cola here, and I am definitely at peace because I can finally move on from Velma and look at some actually good shows. Like in today's video, where better to start than probably with my favorite show of all time, Gravity Falls. It's still relevant to talk about Gravity Falls, right? The Book of Bill came out recently, and it's nice to see that Bill is getting that much needed therapy that he is forced to take. But Gravity Falls has everything. Funny jokes, a creative plot, outstanding characters, waddles. Look at this little guy. Oh, just look at him. Oh, you lovable menace, you. Where was I? Oh yeah, so Gravity Falls. It's a great show from the brilliant mind that is Alex Hirsch. For those who don't know, it's about a pair of twins, Dipper and Mabel, who are forced to live with their grunkle Stan in Roadkill County, Oregon, Gravity Falls. Then a bunch of hijinks ensues. I won't go too much into detail yet. This is the non-spoiler section after all. But damn do I love this show. Gravity Falls was the show that introduced me to serialized mystery television, where every week you tune in and learn something new either about the overarching story, a character, or the world itself. You truly had to be there. And then, imagine my surprise when I found out a couple of years later that there were secret codes and messages at the end of each episode. If you played the theme song in reverse, it would give you a hint to what cipher you needed to use to solve the secret messages. I mean, Alex Hirsch, you are a madman. Today, you can watch YouTube videos of people figuring out the secret messages by pausing the episode on Disney+. But imagine back in 2014, season 2 of Gravity Falls just dropped. You're having a great time, but then you find out there is also a secret code word you need to find in the episode to solve the secret message because it's a Visioneer cipher. You are so screwed. Good luck rewinding on cable TV when your dad's football team is about to play in 10 minutes. But all in all, I love the experience. It's a once in a lifetime high I have been chasing ever since. It even inspired me to start creating a pitch bible for my own mystery comedy series I'm looking to develop in the future. Secret messages and all. Alex Hirsch, if you ever happen to stumble upon this video, I don't know how, you must have misclicked or something. I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for you and your amazing team for creating Gravity Falls. You may not realize it, but it really changed my life for the better. But enough of the sappy crap, okay? Let's get to what you're all here for, the rankings. But first, if you enjoy my crippling addiction to bad shows and movies, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And spoilers for anyone who cares. Okay, I lied. Before we get into the rankings, there are a few rules and extra information I need to disclose. First of all, I am only going to be ranking 40 episodes. That means two things. One, sadly, I will not be looking at the shorts in this video. It's already way too long. But if this video does well enough, then I can do them in another video. And two, I don't care what anyone says, but Weirdmageddon is a 3-parter. If you think otherwise, you're just wrong. You're wrong, okay? You're wrong. And probably smell like cheese. I know this is a ranking, but I'm also going to be putting them in a tier list. Now, I know that might sound strange. Oh, another tier list video. But I promise it will all make sense in the video. It just makes it easier to organize. What was that? What's my source? Trust me, bro. And finally, my opinion is correct and the only one you'll need. There is nobody on this planet who loves Gravity Falls more than me. I dare you to go out and find some. Those guys don't count. Now that that is settled, let's get into the rankings for real this time. Starting us off is number 40.
That's what you get!
Widely contested to be the worst episode of the entire series is Season 2, Episode 16, Roadside Attraction. Now, make no mistakes, it may not be the best Gravity Falls episode ever, but comparing this to some of the worst episodes in other shows is a sin. And I mean that literally. For Gravity Falls' standards, this episode is a bit subpar. You get some character regression with Dipper, questionable actions from Grunkle Stan, what else is new, and the adventure is pretty meh all around. So the episode takes place just after Grunkle Ford. Yep, we are already in major spoiler territory here, click off if you haven't already. But Grunkle Ford has just implemented unicorn hair to help protect the Mystery Shack and anyone inside from Bill, an interdimensional demon hell-bent on escaping the mindscape to their reality, so he can unleash a killer party and tack on a little bit of world domination nomination for convenience, but that's for later. So Stan and Ford think it's the best time to go on a road trip with the twins, Mabel's friends, and Seuss outside of Gravity Falls, but most importantly, away from the protection of the Mystery Shack. That makes perfect sense. Look, I know there is added context in the real-life version of Journal 3 where Ford explains that he wanted to get his family as far away as possible in case the unicorn failsafe plan didn't work or something. I respect it, but I'm ranking these episodes by themselves, so any outside context needed to make a character decision make sense is a bit cheating. So they go around to all the other tourist traps outside of Gravity Falls and get prank revenge on them.
Don't let the face fool you. This woman lit my car on fire on 2 non-consecutive occasions.
The main gripe I have with this episode is the fact that they brought back the Dipper likes Wendy and can't get over her plot point. Dude, we get it. If this was the first time, I wouldn't mind. But when earlier in the season, when Dipper and Wendy finally talk about his feelings for her, and he realizes she is too old for him, but they continue to be friends and not let this ruin their friendship, I found that really wholesome and a mature way to deal with the situation. But then this episode happens and it's like we're back to square one. It's like we ran out of episode ideas, which is a shame because the rest of the episode is pretty fun, with Dipper taking advice from Stan, who is a literal con artist, on how to pick up girls, and failing, leading them to solving the mystery of Mystery Mountain. How does one get new mummies daily? By being tricked, trapped, and sucked dry by a giant spider lady, of course. This episode also teased a bit of romance between Dipper and Candy, but that ultimately goes nowhere. I think the worst thing this episode does is what it took away from us. I think this episode was a prime spot to add a Wendy-centric episode. Did you know that out of the main cast, Wendy is the only one without being the main focus of an episode? And Seuss got 2. Alex said it was hard to crack a Wendy episode because she was too cool, which I can understand to some extent, but you can really feel that it's missing. Mabel doesn't do too much in this episode either, which is either a positive or negative, depending on who you ask. It's not like this episode is all bad though. The show is already visually stunning, but I think the background artists really earned their paychecks in this one. Just look at some of these backgrounds. For once, people would think we were outside. Since this is like the only time we ever go outside of Gravity Falls, the locations of each attraction is unique, like Mystery Mountain or Upside Down Town. I love the little detail of his hat also being upside down. It makes sense. If this episode was placed earlier in the season, then I could see it as some nice filler. But being 2 episodes before Widmageddon Part 1, when the tension is supposed to be really rising, it feels like a bit of a letdown. Especially when you remember there are 4 episodes left of the entire series. C tier. FYI, C tier is the lowest tier on the chart. That's how good this show is.
We're safe.
Little gift shop of horrors. Some may call it base because it ends with Grunkle Stan drugging, kidnapping, and exploiting us for money. I call it a poor man's bottomless pit. To give credit where it's due, it's impressive that in only 2 seasons of peak animated television, we were able to get not 1, but 2 anthology episodes that don't take away from the overarching mystery of the show. It's debated whether or not these episodes are canon because it involves the characters making up stories to pass the time or to, violate the Geneva Convention.
Here, have a free sample. I'll have something new for sale very soon.
I saw it blinking.
Just an optical illusion.
There isn't too much to talk about in these episodes, except the extra world building it does. Toby Determined sells wet blankets as a side hustle, real life witches exist, claymation is black magic and punishment for all our sins, Neil deGrasse Tyson is Waddles.
Delicious potatoes. Yummy, yummy for my fat little pig tummy.
But then again, this could all be lies.
Sure, he doesn't look magic, but there's a very interesting story I'm about to make up about him.
As always, the episode looks great, the animation is stunning, and some of the jokes are instant classics, which is standard for Gravity Falls.
Those monsters are just tiny clay figures moved around 1 frame at a time by an antisocial shut-in. Those people are called animators.
Okay guys, I am not going to keep pointing that out for every episode, or else we will be here all day. And I have a bed to go back to. But I do want to note how excellently they managed to merge animation and claymation together to make some truly unique sequences. C tier.
The
He'll be fine.
Who would have guessed that the other anthology episode would have been next on the list? It's clear that these episodes are what happens when you have a couple ideas but not any developed well enough for a full episode. Add on a looming deadline for the script to be submitted and you get Bottomless Pit and Little Gift Shop of Horrors. But the advantage that Bottomless Pit has is that it came first, and I think the jokes in it are a step above.
To the hospital, honey pants!
Gets me every time. This episode takes place, believe it or not, in the Bottomless Pit near the Mystery Shack. This thing is definitely a safety hazard and a workplace violation, as Grunkle Stan and the rest of the guys are soon to find out. I'm surprised there isn't more reports of people going missing via falling in. But then again, the sheriffs in this town ain't too bright.
Where's your doctor's note?
Why, it's right here inside my jacket!
Well, I can't argue with Dr. Medicine.
Dipper, Seuss, and Grunkle Stan all tell stories to pass the time before their inevitable doom. Some of these stories have cool hints to the overall mystery or to Stan's younger years with Footbot. But Seuss's story, intentional or not, makes him look like a jerk. After getting stuck in a magic pinball machine, trust me, it makes more sense in the show, Seuss is forced to make a choice to either save the kids or lose his high score. And he has to think about this? I get you had the high score, which you cheated to get, by the way, and Seuss thinks this is his biggest achievement. He would have to erase his score to save Dipper and Mabel. But Seuss, think bigger, my guy. If you erase all the scores, you can just get the next high score way easier. I can't get too mad at Seuss though. This is a hypothetical story after all. But Mabel's story might be real, since it involves her getting Grunkle Stan truth teeth that force him to only tell the truth, which may sound like a good idea until you realize it's Grunkle Stan.
Is life just some kind of horrific joke without a punchline? That we're all just biding our time until the sweet, sweet release of death?
This ends with Mabel getting rid of the teeth and dumping them in the bottomless pit! So, did it happen? Did it not? We'll never know. They get out because it's actually a wormhole with no time passing by, and it's never mentioned again. It's an okay episode, good to see every now and then, but definitely not on my rewatch list. Fun fact, Bottomless Pit is the only episode title with punctuation in it at the end. That's why I've been screaming its title all video. C tier.
We are criminals. We will cut you.
Damn, them boys do be crazy if this is their favorite episode. But yeah, this is definitely a season 1 episode of an animated TV show. It's more on the episodic side of things, but what do you expect from a season 1 episode of any show? This is when creators are experimenting with their formula and seeing what works. And did this episode work? 50-50. It's a Mabel-centric episode, which is always cool, and it's about Mabel and her friends wanting to see their perfect boy band. But when they can't get into the show, they decide to sneak in through the back and find out their so-called perfect boys are actually clones, grown in pods by a producer who would give Kingpin a run for his money. It's not always about the money, Seuss. It's about Footbot and Grunkle Stan and unnamed hot women. Mabel thinks it's bad that the boys are locked up and are basically human guinea pigs. Aww, he thinks he's people. But yeah, they kidnap them. They rescued them, and Mabel quickly becomes the thing she hates.
Not so fast! They're not going anywhere.
If you love them, you'd set them free.
I love the way he falls out the bag. You know he stays standing on business. Candy and Brenda manage to talk some sense into Mabel, and they release the boys into the wild to be free for themselves.
That won't last a week.
Candy's right. In fact, if you look closely in later episodes, you can see them scrounging around for food in trash cans and acting like all-round animals in the background. There is also a B-plot of Dipper and Grunkle Stan trying to prove that Robbie, hate that guy, is somehow manipulating Wendy into still dating him by using a creepy CD.
Just listen to this song and you'll be hypnotized.
Dipper manages to break them up, but loses the girl in the end. But was he right? Was there something cultish going on with that CD? Or should we all listen to Grunkle Stan and invest in gold because the end times are near?
Look, if it makes you feel any better, the apocalypse is coming soon. Bury your gold. You've been buying gold, right?
This episode is fine in a vacuum, but pales in comparison to the heights we all know this show can get to. C tier.
Don't come in! Don't come in!
Dipper vs. Manliness is one of those episodes you put on, laugh at all the jokes and the ridiculous concepts, but when it comes time to re-watching the series, it's one of those episodes I find myself skipping more often than not. There's nothing specifically bad about this episode to note, but everyone just feels slightly off. I can't really put my finger on it, but it's just so noticeable.
Dipper! It's me, Mabel! I'm looking at you through the glass! Right here! This is my voice! I'm talking to you from inside!
Dipper gets embarrassed by manly Dan for not being man enough in front of everyone at the diner and decides to run off into the woods. While sulking alone, he finds himself in a society of manotaurs. Half man, half, tour. They're basically a stand-in for toxic masculinity and force Dipper to do a bunch of tasks to prove his worth. People may laugh at Dipper for being a wimp for most of season 1, but I respect anyone who plunges their fist in a pain hole. Dipper completes the tasks but draws the line at killing the multi-bear because he's just like him for real for real.
You listen to Icelandic pop group Baba? I love Baba.
I thought I was the only one.
Disco girl,
Coming through, that girl is you.
Dipper learns that to be a man doesn't mean you have to be voided out all the time, but to fight for what you believe in. It's a good lesson to teach young boys growing up thinking that they have to be macho all the time, and Sigma, and skibbity riz, and I am so sorry, I will never say those words ever again. Meanwhile, Mabel is trying to make Grunkle stand more appealing for the ladies, and oh, yikes, does he need a lot of work.
Can I borrow some money?
This is gonna be harder than I thought.
I can see why some people love this episode, but it's not one of my personal favorites, although it did give us something magnificent.
coming through, that girl is you.
Don't come in! Don't come in!
C tier.
I'm giving none of this to charity!
Boss Mabel is another Mabel-centric episode where the concept idea is great, but the execution slightly fell short. And by fell short, I mean by Gravity Falls' standards. It's still a banger of an episode. Mabel doesn't like the borderline illegal way Stan treats his employees, which is funny if you really think about it, because half of his workforce is his great nephew and niece. Is that a thing? A great nephew? He is their great uncle after all. Ugh, I don't know. Family trees are hard. So Mabel makes a bet with Stan that she can run the shack better than him by using kindness and basic pleasantries like please and thank you. Of course, this concept is foreign to Stan.
Please never made me any money, kid. In fact, just saying the word has given me a burning sensation.
Stan agrees and sees who can make the most money in 72 hours. While Stan has taken over the game show cash wheel by using his old man powers.
Ah! I'm having a heart attack! And the only cure is to be a contestant on Cash Wheel!
That man is a self-centered attention hog with no regard for human decency. Get him on TV!
Mabel struggles to keep things aligned, realizing that running a business needs ruthlessness, and to not allow your brother to bring an eldritch horror in the vicinity of customers.
If you look into his eyes, you can see your worst nightmare.
There is a nice bridge between the A and B plot, with Mabel becoming what she swore to destroy, and Grunkle Stan realizing that please can make you money after all. Overall, it's a fine episode, but there are so many other bang episodes coming up, and someone had to take the 35th spot, so Boss Mabel, thanks for doing that for us. The jokes in this episode are pretty good as well, with some of my favourites in the entire series.
How did he get out of his locked cage?
Well...
When fighting a gremlin, use water. Only as a last resort, as water will make him much, much scarier. Ah! Who writes sentences like that?
Also, I believe Grunkle Stan learning the word please plays a huge part in the mid-season finale in season 2, which I will talk about more when we get there. For now, this episode is a solid B tier.
They're slow. I can probably take a few down.
Oh, the love god. This one upsets me that I have to put it so low. I'm just going to get this out of the way. but this episode definitely has the best joke of the entire show. The setup is immaculate. It's time for the Woodstick Festival and Stan hates it because of all the hippie kids who come to town. Zeus gives him the idea to maybe try and appeal to the kids. Maybe he can make some more money that way.
So young people are into hot air balloons, eh?
This leads to an episode-long build-up with us thinking, what is Stan going to do? How is he going to use the hot air balloons? And how is this all going to go horribly wrong? And horribly wrong it does.
It's heaven's punishment for our terrible taste in everything!
Mommy, is the floating head going to eat us?
Yes, Charlie! Yes, he will!
However, this joke is not enough to save this episode from B-tier status. The A story follows the twins hanging out with Wendy and her friends in the cemetery, as one does. They find Robbie sulking in a grave because he hasn't gotten over Wendy rightfully dumping his ass. FYI, this is post-breakup Robbie, so he is more of an asshole than usual. And this doesn't sit right with Mabel, so she makes it her mission to make Robbie happy by finding him the perfect partner. And this is why this episode takes a hit in the rankings for me. Trying to help someone move on with their life by finding them a new girlfriend is one thing, but using a magic love potion she stole from a cherub to force two unwilling individuals into a relationship is where I draw the line. There's practically no consent here, and it makes Mabel look like a narcissist because the only reason she is doing this is to fill up her own happy chart. It's not a good look. The cherub, by the way, is John DiMaggio. He looks like John DiMaggio. He is voiced by John DiMaggio. He's just John DiMaggio to me. Okay, that's just John right there.
Sign my face!
Only if you sign mine, baby. Let's get weird!
I like the idea that since online dating is doing his job already, it gives him time to follow his true passion, making music.
I've taken some time to focus on my rock career. Boom, cassette. Boom, for you.
Oh, that's great!
The rest of the episode just deals with the consequences in the friend group of getting Robbie and Tambry together. Dipper suggests that if Mabel got them together with magic, why doesn't she just break them up with magic? Leading to a chase scene because Mabel keeps stealing from this poor guy. But more importantly, she didn't even give his mixtape a chance. And I just want to say, Alex terrorized people worldwide, me included, for anyone who looked for the code word in this episode. I have no idea how some people found this one so early on. Mabel can't go through with it, however, because Robbie is actually happy for once, even though Tambry didn't choose to be in this situation. I guess her opinions don't matter. And I know it has been said that the love potion's effect ran out by the next day, so whenever you see them together later on in the season, they're together by choice. Yeah, like I said before, any outside context needed is a bit cheating and trying to justify a bad situation. John DiMaggio is defeated by Stan's atrocity, even though he didn't really do anything wrong, and somewhat ties the A and B plots together. I do like that we meet Robbie's parents in this episode, and their personality is perfect for their occupation: funeral home directors.
Oh no! I hope someone didn't die.
Yes, that would be awful.
Also, if there is one thing this episode gets right, it's how security guards react to anything ever. A hot air balloon monster came from the heavens to torment teenagers? No sweat. But you have the audacity to bring in snacks from the outside? Nah, now we have a problem.
My cake! Hey, food from the outside!
B tier. Also, forcing someone to be Robbie's partner is a fate worse than death and something I would never wish upon my worst enemy.
Avenge me!
Headhunters is the third episode of season 1 and has the task of developing more of the extended cast, with fan favourites like Manly Dan, Chandra Jimenez, Sheriff Bloods, Deputy Derland, and Toby Determined is here too, I guess.
Your microphone's a turkey baster, Toby.
It certainly is.
Next question.
The gang find a hidden room full of old wax sculptures of celebrities that Grunkle Stan acquired.
$20? I'll just take them when you're not looking.
What?
I said I was gonna rob you.
One of the sculptures melted, so Mabel decides to craft Stan, making a wax double of him, which Stan deeply appreciates. strangely so. But on the night of the grand opening, Wax Stan has been murdered! Stan is really sad about this, and it's supposed to leave you confused why. It was only a wax replica. This was great subtle foreshadowing of Stan's guilt and the reveal of the author of the journals, Stan's twin brother Ford. It's great to see the hints being placed as early as episode 3. So Dipper and Mabel go around town looking for potential suspects. But plot twist, the wax figures are magic and alive, and also they're the ones who killed Wax Stan, thinking he was the real Stan. Now, behind all the jokes, this is the first instance that Gravity Falls isn't your typical Disney show. There is something darker under the hood. 1 second you're laughing at this guy flapping his cheeks, which I just realized now is a mad sentence out of context, but then you realize that these guys are attempted murderers. Not to defeat Stan or to destroy him, but straight up murder. Stan's just lucky he left the room when he did. It's a pretty fun episode, but Larry King's wax head still haunts me in my nightmares. B tier.
You're acting suspicious. What's a pig?
It's the Waddles episode! Well, technically the second Waddles episode, but I think that one is way better. This episode suffers from its placement in the series. Let me explain. There's a mysterious creature terrorizing the citizens of Gravity Falls. Spoiler alert, it's a pterodactyl.
That pterodactyl won't know what hit him.
It's pterodactyl, man.
Actually, nobody knows how to pronounce it because no one was alive back in dinosaur days, so, Whoa!
My fault, you right. Seuss is never wrong, guys. Dipper wants to get pictures of the dinosaur to mainly make money, but to also prove to Stan once and for all that some weird shit is going down in Gravity Falls. Now, you need to understand, this is season 1, and Stan is still pretending that the supernatural things happening aren't real. Meanwhile, Mabel is vibing with Waddles, but once he eats one of Stan's fake attractions, this sends Stan over the edge. Waddles did the one thing that Stan hates more than anything, affecting his money. He puts Waddles outside, who is swiftly grabbed by the pterodactyl.
Went down like this, see? The face! That really happened!
Hey, I'd believe him. This leads to them finding its nest along with other dinosaurs trapped in amber. Now, what did I mean by this episode suffering from its placement in the season? Well, throughout this episode, Seuss has been, well, more Seuss than ever. Accidentally destroying photos of the pterodactyl, destroying a lamp, and being an all-round Seuss. And Dipper doesn't like this.
But we're pterodactyl bros. I made t-shirts.
It's pronounced pterodactyl, and these shirts are useless. They're gigantic.
How dare you? He's the world's most perfect man, but Dipper doesn't care about this and thinks that Seuss isn't responsible enough to be allowed on this adventure. If this was earlier in the season, I could understand why Dipper is angry, but this is 2 episodes before the season 1 finale. Seuss has been through the thick of it with you all season, and you want to do him dirty like this? It feels a bit disingenuous, but after arguing and some therapy from, aww, just look at him. How can you be angry at this little guy? They all manage to see each other's worth and escape with their lives. McGucket is also here, which is a treat, giving out great one-liners.
You punched a pterodactyl in the face, remember?
Oh, yeah!
My, what suspicious laughter!
I can't hear anything!
Oh no! She's gone deaf with fear!
You see this? People theorized because Stan landed in a coffin, that symbolized he was going to die later on in the show. Maybe. Or maybe it's just a funny visual. I also liked Stan's reasoning on why he believes any of this is even happening.
You punched a pterodactyl in the face? I thought you didn't even believe in the supernatural.
Dinosaurs aren't magic, they're just big lizards.
If this episode came out earlier in the season, I would rank it much higher. But it feels a little bit like the conflict in this episode was all forced to get the story going, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but when characters have been so consistent from episode to episode, this one really sticks out there with how they are all treating each other. B tier.
It's okay to give children weapons, right?
First off, before I get into this episode, I want to say I respect the Last Mabel Corn's existence as an episode. If you haven't already, go and check out the YouTube channel That GF Fan. They're just a treasure trove of Gravity Falls content, and I found a video which is basically the box set commentary from Alex Hirsch and the other voice actors talking about the Last Mabel Corn, as well as other episodes. I bet half of you don't even know what a box set is. Not gonna lie, neither do I really. I think they're slightly before my time. In these ones, however, Alex and Co would talk over footage of Gravity Falls and give cool facts about how they made a certain episode or what inspired them. They're really insightful. They have a bunch more of these on their channel, so check them out when you get the chance. But of course, watch this video first. Now, in this specific commentary video, Alex talked about how they just couldn't crack a Wendy episode. At one point in the script, it involved Wendy being at odds with her crazy lumberjack dad, Manly Dan, and Wendy getting weather powers? I can see why we never got one. So Alex had a choice: either produce an episode that would have been way out of character for Wendy, or write a whole new script in 2 days, just in time for the deadline. And so, The Last Mabel Corn was born. Like, that's insane. As a writer myself, having to write, read through, edit, proofread again a whole 23-minute script in just 2 days is unheard of. So major respect to Alex. And personally, I don't think The Last Mabel Corn is all that bad. The usual trademark Gravity Falls humor is still there.
Sleep now. Sleep.
And it starts leading us into the finale. Ford has a dream that Bill is biding his time, making preparations for the big day, and that Ford will slip up soon and allow hell to literally break loose. This forces Ford to send Mabel on a quest with her friends to find a rare ingredient to help them Bill-proof the shack: unicorn hair. However, Mabel is told that she isn't a good person and can't get the unicorn hair until she changes her ways. This leads to Mabel doing a bunch of good deeds to try and show she is a good person, but the unicorn tells her that doing good deeds to only show you are good is not good. But Wendy doesn't want to hear any of that, so they fight unicorns and win. Meanwhile, Ford and Dipper try to Bill-proof their minds just in case, but we learned that Ford used to work with Bill and was tricked, the same way Dipper was. This causes Dipper to try and erase Ford's mind with the device from the Society of the Blind Eye episode, and we find out that Ford's mind can't be erased.
Besides, my mind can't be erased anyway, remember?
This is a major piece of information because it plays into the events of the finale and explains why a sacrifice was made and how they had to beat Bill. We also get a deeper look into how Ford and Bill used to be research partners along with McGucket before he went totally crazy, until Ford learned Bill's real goal and did everything in his power to stop him. All in all, I really enjoyed this episode, and you couldn't tell that this was only written on 3 hours of sleep.
Thanks, Grunkle Ford. But today I learned that morality is relative.
Money!
Beat it. The Inconveniencing is a pretty big episode so early on in the series because it establishes a lot of things and big players for the rest of the show. We get an idea of who Wendy is, a cool, down-to-earth lumberjack girl along with her friends and... Robbie. This is also the origin of the whole Dipper likes Wendy arc.
I just think Wendy's cool, okay? It's not like I lay awake at night thinking about her. Uh-oh.
Get used to it. That is going to be the driving force for a lot of Dipper's actions. So in this episode, Dipper lies to Wendy saying he and Mabel are actually 13, technically teenagers, so they can hang with Wendy and her friends. Dipper wants to look cool and accidentally makes an op for life.
I'm the guy who spray painted the water tower.
Oh, you mean the big muffin?
It's a giant explosion?
They decide to break into the abandoned convenience store, the condemned Dusk to Dawn, where the couple who ran the place died from a double heart attack thanks to teenagers and their hip rap music.
Homework's whack, and so are rules. Tuck it in your shirts for fools.
We were stricken down with double heart attacks.
As they hang around and maybe get high, Dipper starts noticing some weird things going on. Then Wendy's friends start disappearing and Mabel gets possessed by a ghost.
Hey, ghost!
Guys, is Mabel going to be okay? I don't think human necks are supposed to turn like that. My headcanon now is that Mabel has been dead since episode 5. Dipper calms down the ghost by doing his iconic Lammy Lammy dance because they hate teenagers, and Dipper earns the teenagers' respect because Wendy covered for him.
You are not going to believe it. The ghosts appeared and Dipper had to... And Dipper just grabbed a bat and started beating ghosts down left and right.
I like this episode because it sets up the friendship between Dipper and Wendy, showing she can be a main character. It also establishes Dipper and Wendy's secret gesture, which will be important later. B tier.
Go ahead, eat the books!
Okay, it's Pioneer Day in Gravity Falls, and the whole town is celebrated. The opening ceremony is being presented by Pacifica Northwest and her family. Pacifica is basically Mabel's rival, the shadow to Mabel's Sonic. She's the classic spoiled rich kid archetype who seems stuck up. I like Pacifica. I don't know why, she's always resonated with me. However, Pacifica does not vibe with Mabel whatsoever. She has no chill for real.
Our first newcomer is Mabel.
Dipper thinks the only reason Pacifica is on her high horse is because her family founded Gravity Falls. But Dipper remembers that he read somewhere in the journal that the Northwests might be frauds. Revealing a map to the true founder, Mabel goes along with Dipper to try and prove to everyone that she can be serious. But she keeps goofing off regardless. However, it turns out her silliness helps solve the mysteries of finding out what happened to the true founder of Gravity Falls. Enter Quentin Tremblay III, the 8th and a half president of the United States of America. He too was a silliness connoisseur, accidentally founding Gravity Falls, leaving the Northwest ancestors as waste shoveling idiots, and he never actually signed a resignation. So technically, he's still the president. He helps Dipper and Mabel escape Sheriff Blobs and Durland, who have been chasing them this entire time, and he makes Mabel a recognized congresswoman.
I'm legalizing everything!
He gives Dipper a negative $12 bill and a key that can unlock any lock in America. And I am incredibly salty it doesn't turn up more in this series. Mabel learns it's good to be yourself and you shouldn't have to change for other people. And Dipper learns in the power of revenge.
Nathaniel Northwest didn't found Gravity Falls, and your whole family is a sham. Deal with it.
What?
Man, revenge is underrated. That felt awesome.
B tier.
Let the madness begin!
Stan! 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 You know, Stan is probably my favorite character in Gravity Falls. I would definitely ride or die for that man. So when he's sad, I'm sad. This season 2 episode takes place a little after Ford has been rescued from the portal and is now a mainstay in their lives. Before that, Stan was basically the main parental figure for Dipper, Mabel and Suze, which might not be a good thing. But once Ford returned, Stan feels obsolete, like he had no more purpose. People didn't depend on him anymore. So when the super reclusive 102-year-old mayor of Gravity Falls used his huckabone Befuddlefumpter dies and a position opens up, Stan decides to run for mayor. I can't believe I said that all in one take. Ah, Befuddlefumpter, what a man. What a legend! A moment of silence as we listen to his greatest achievements.
Raised by bears in the wilderness, Mayor Eustace Huckabone Befuddlefumpter was best known for raising the water tower, possibly starting World War I, and putting town menace Gideon Gleeful behind bars.
Okay, possibly. They said possibly, guys. Maybe he wasn't that great after all. So Stan decides to run for mayor, as well as Bud Gleeful and pretty much everyone else in town. Dipper and Mabel decide to help Stan run for two reasons. One, because Bud is clearly up to something suspicious. He is Gideon's father after all. And Gideon, by the way, at this point in time is in actual adult prison. And two, Stan is Stan.
Heck, he's committing voter fraud right now.
Dipper asks Ford for anything to help, and of course he has a tire that once worn mind controls the target. They use this on Stan, and Gideon does the same thing to his dad by using up a secret page from Journal 2. There's some cool commentary to be found here about how the more corrupt of a person you are, the easier you are to control. However, Stan starts believing in his own hype, thinking he can do it all on his own. This leads to Dipper and Mabel being captured and about to be exploded during the final vote, which is done in a crazy way. A mayor-picking eagle will fly down and bestow a kiss on the winning candidate, and then they're the mayor. I love little stuff like this because it shows the intricate world building and it's totally believable. Remember, the true founder of Gravity Falls was a silliness maniac, so I can imagine him enforcing a law as silly as this. Anyway, Stan is forced to go and save Dipper and Mabel, and he only asks for one thing.
Kids, if I die, make sure I get a bigger tombstone than Ford.
It It's a touching moment because it was never about being meh. Doesn't matter though, because he wins. Well, actually no. It turns out Stan has quite the extensive criminal record. Who could have thought?
Crimes include shoplifting, teaching bears to drive, a new crime he invented called burgle-bezelment, first-degree llama-cide.
That llama knew too much.
That llama knew too much. That might be one of my favorite micro stories of all time. What did the llama know? What was so bad that Stan had to kill the llama before they spilled the beans? Who was the llama going to tell? This episode reminds you that family is everything and we shouldn't take those for granted. B tier.
I'd fire all of you if I could.
Every episode from this point onwards is at least A tier. I thought I'll get that out there as quick as possible to let you know how good this show really is. That means we are now in the peak era of animated television. And where else better to start than with the episode that started it all? Episode 1. Tourist Trapped. In most new shows, episode 1 tends to be the weakest. This could be for a variety of reasons. Maybe the jokes don't land. Maybe the tone is not what people quite expected. Maybe the writer doesn't have a full idea of how the world they created works yet. Well, none of this was an issue for Tourist Trapped. It brilliantly sets up the world of Gravity Falls and let us know from the get-go what we are getting into. You get a sense of Dipper and Mabel's isolation as they are whisked off from sunny California and dumped off in Gravity Falls. The mysterious yet familial settings of the Mystery Shack is a great location for a show like this. It's unique enough to be considered its own character. And speaking of characters, we meet the main cast and get their personalities immediately. Dipper is naturally inquisitive and awkward. Mabel is more outgoing and charismatic. Wendy is cool and collected. Seuss wants to be a helpful handyman, and Grunkle Stan is a con man, shifty, and makes you question whether or not he can be trusted. A couple weeks go by with nothing really happening until Dipper is deep in the woods one day and finds a mysterious journal. Journal number 3, the inciting incident. This changes Dipper's life forever. Weird drawings and ramblings from a mysterious author saying to trust no one in Gravity Falls causes Dipper to be more on edge. Meanwhile, Mabel gets herself a boyfriend, and thanks to the journal, Dipper believes him to be a zombie. Turns out, he's actually a bunch of gnomes trying to make Mabel their gnome bride. You know, it's an honest mistake. I can see how you can compare the two. And when they're angry, they can combine into a massive gnome monster, yet somehow the twins manage to defeat them. At the end of the episode, we get a hint that Stan is not what he seems. Yeah, what a brilliant episode and a great starting point. It displays the formula of a typical Gravity Falls episode. A problem will arise, usually with a magical nature involved. Character-based conflict will ensue, and they fix the problem with a foreshadowed solution, and there's an emotional hook with the lesson learned. And there were also a lot of good jokes.
I'm telling you, something weird is going on in this town. Just today, my mosquito bite spelled out beware.
That says bewarb.
But there were a couple cutaway gags in this episode and even in episode 2, but I'll chalk them up to the show finding its feet, as we get far less of them later on, replacing them with the trademark Gravity Falls charm. This episode sets up mysteries which are at the core of the entire series. Who is the author of the journal? What is going on in Gravity Falls? And what is Stan hiding? A tier.
Oh, I have a lobster now.
Season 1, episode 4. The episode that introduces us to the first big bad of the series. Or should I say, the first lil bad of the series. Because it's Lil Gideon's episode. You like what I did there? So Dipper, Mabel, and Seuss are made aware of Gideon's existence as a psychic and don't believe his baloney. So they want to check him out. And he seems to maybe actually be a psychic?
I'll read your mind if I'm able. Something tells me your name, Mabel.
How'd he do that?
The next day, Gideon shows up at the shack saying he was enchanted by Mabel and wants to hang out with her. He's basically asking her out on a date. And Grunkle Stan does not like this at all. Apparently, this Gideon guy is Stan's self-proclaimed rival. Mabel agrees to hang out with Gideon because he's not like Dipper.
You never want to do girly stuff with me. You and Sis get to do boy stuff all the time.
What do you mean?
Hey, dude, you ready to blow up these hot dogs in the microwave one by one?
Am I? One at a time. One at a time.
But she soon finds out that Gideon has a dark side.
Mabel, when I'm up here looking down at all them little old people, I feel like I'm king of all I survey.
One of my favorite jokes in this entire show is after Gideon forces Mabel to go on a date with him, they end up at a restaurant that allows horses inside, by the way, and when Mabel tries to turn him down, this happens.
They're expecting us. Please say you'll go.
Aww. Gideon, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to say, if she says no, I'll die from sadness.
I can verify that that will indeed happen.
That doctor, man. Anyway, Mabel really doesn't want to date Gideon, especially with the added pressure from Stan. So Dipper decides to help Mabel out by telling Gideon that she doesn't want to see him anymore. And Gideon doesn't take this too kindly and resorts to throwing them both down a cliff with his magical bolo tie. Luckily, Mabel saves them, destroying Gideon's tie in the process, and he escapes, swearing revenge. And we also find out that Gideon has journal number 2. This is a good first episode for our main antagonist of the season, showing why he hates the Pines family and wants revenge. Gideon also having journal number 2 spices up the mystery, as it confirms there are multiple journals in play. Who knows what secrets they hold? You know, I just thought about it, and it's so funny that Gideon fakes having telepathic abilities when he can just do telekinesis. I would pay real money to see someone move things with real magic. A tier. Imagine you're back in 2014. The first Five Nights at Freddy's has just come out and it's taken your high school computer class by storm. And then a couple months later, this episode airs. I always find it crazy when two different forms of media come out at the same time with pretty much the same idea. It really goes to show that there are no more original ideas. It's just how much of a twist can you put on something to make it seem fresh. Seuss and the Real Girl is the first of 2 episodes that really focuses on Seuss. And it's really needed because the rest of the guys haven't got a clue of what Seuss does when he's not at the shack. It reminds me when I was a kid and used to think that once I left school, all the teachers just deactivated or powered down or just ceased to exist altogether. But Seuss just goes home to play video games at his grandmother's, and his grandmother, his abuela, oh, she's a saint.
I would like to see you settled before I ascend to heaven and live with the angels.
And with Grandpa.
No, he is not there.
It turns out Seuss's cousin Reggie is having a wedding and she wants Seuss to attend, but he needs a date. Surely this wouldn't be too hard for the world's most perfect man, right? Right?
Your face is good. I'm a Seuss.
Seuss tries everything, but he just can't land a date, even with Dipper and Mabel's help. Stan is also here, but just to dump off his freak of nature attraction, Old Goldie. Seuss manages to find a dating game, and they think this will be a better way for him to learn how to pick up girls and practice, since she won't be. Plot twist, she's real. And she doesn't take too kindly to Dipper and Mabel forcing Seuss to unplug from the game. Seuss isn't doing much better either.
These girls have so many dimensions, and no explanation menus.
My purse!
Oh no! Undo! Undo!
You can't undo who you are.
However, through his natural viz, he manages to bag a date, much to the dislike of Giffany. Anyone calling her Giffany is on my forever hit list. The date is now going terribly, especially since the animatronics have now turned evil and are attacking. Where did these animatronics come from? Well, if we go back in time a little, after Stan got rid of Old Goldie, he spotted his new money-making scheme, stealing the animatronics from Hoo-Ha's Jamboree, which also happens to be where Seuss's date is. So when Giffany takes over all the animatronics, just know, as Stan is getting beaten up here, he has no idea what is going on. Also, Giffany just took over the animatronics. She didn't modify them physically, so who in their right mind gave the barrel rats claws like this? They managed to defeat her in a gory fashion really, and I'm just surprised she didn't come back. And as a bonus, Melanie, Seuss's date, doesn't hate him and even agrees to go to the wedding with him. Meanwhile, Stan gets saved by none other than Old Goldie, and he makes even more terrible life choices. This was a good episode, especially with how they handled Giffany. Her pixel art and how she interacted with other electronics and games was really cool, although there is another episode coming up that I think did it slightly better. We also get to see a little more into Seuss's life and his family, and it helps make the world of Gravity Falls feel more real and lived in. A tier.
Because the wizard too many dungeons and all that!
This is the first episode after the mid-season finale, and our first real look at Ford, Stan's long-lost twin brother. We see how competent and cool Ford is in the face of danger, and Dipper really wants to be like him. So once he finds out that Ford also has a deep love for his favorite D&D style game, Dungeons, Dungeons and More Dungeons, Dipper can't be more thrilled. Whilst playing, Ford reveals a powerful device that he somehow acquired from his time hopping dimensions beyond the portal.
An infinity-sided die. Our faces could melt into jelly. The world could turn into an egg. Or you could just roll an 8. Who knows?
Its immense power is why he keeps it in a cheap plastic case, a fatal mistake he comes to realize later. Because they are so into the game, it causes them to be a nuisance to everyone else, even stopping Stan, Mabel and Grenda from watching the Duck Detective finale.
As long as I live, I will never,
Uncle Stan, wait!
ever
Stanley!
play your smarty pants nerd game!
No!
Yeah, so Dipper and Ford are kidnapped by Wizard Al Yankovic, forcing the rest to have to go on an epic wizard quest, which Stan is not happy about. Throughout this episode, Stan and Mabel have been making fun of Dipper for liking a nerdy game, so it's kind of fitting that they both have to partake in the game in a sense. They get some weapons, and I guess a recliner counts, and there are some cool references to other games.
We must be getting close. These fairy bites are getting more frequent.
Hey, look, listen.
Also, Stan and Grenda is an underrated pairing that I wish we saw more of in the show.
No!
Is he dead?
He's magic, sweetie. I'm sure he's fine. There's no cops in the forest. We take this to our graves.
They find Wizard Al Yankovic and are forced into playing a game of Dungeons, Dungeons and More Dungeons, with Dipper and Ford's life on the line. At first, they find it nerdy, but when they learn the game also takes imagination and risk, it leads to them winning with bizarre success.
Risk?
Imagination? Uncle Stan, make something up! It's just like lying!
The episode ends with everyone reconciling and watching the Duck Detective finale together. Dipper also learns why Ford was angry at Stan for opening up the portal again. Its instability is dangerous and could open up a rift to a hellish dimension right here in Gravity Falls, dooming everyone else. And we don't want that to happen, do we? That's why Ford has managed to contain the most unstable parts in a, you guessed it, another cheap case, but this time made out of glass. Ford doesn't want Dipper to tell anyone, not even Mabel, because it is too dangerous. This was a great episode because we get to really understand what drives Ford and why he makes the decisions he does, even when they may not be the correct decision. His arrogance and never fully explaining things is his weakness and his greatest downfall. He doesn't know it now, but telling Dipper not to warn the others about the rift will almost be everyone's undoing. There are also little moments that foreshadow the finale with how a little rift is forming between Mabel and Dipper.
And he doesn't make fun of me all the time the way you and Grunkle Stan do.
Give him time! Hey-oh! Nah, you got me.
We also learn that you shouldn't bully others for what they like, even if it's weird to you, or else you might release a wizard hell-bent on destroying you with illegal moves. A tier.
Sir, why are you talking to our son?
The second episode of any show needs to build upon the elements of the first and show the true potential that show has. The Legend of the Gobblewonker excelled on all fronts. It greatly improves upon episode 1. The jokes feel more character driven and land more.
Grunkle Stan, are you wearing a blindfold?
Nah, but with these cataracts, I might as well be. What is that, a woodpecker?
And the episode structure flows way better, but more importantly, it paints Grunkle Stan in a more sympathetic light. So far, Stan had seemed like a sleazy conman who didn't care about anyone else and was hiding something suspicious behind the vending machine. But this episode shows that he's not all bad. Stan admits that he hasn't really shown Dipper and Mabel a good time since they have been with him this entire summer. So to make up for that, he takes them on a trip to somewhere that is guaranteed to bring them fun. The Gravity Falls Lake. Time to get to fishing. Stan wants to have some quality bonding time with them, but the sentiment isn't shared. Suddenly, a crazy old man runs around, causing a ruckus and claiming that they have seen the Gobblewonker again. This is Old Man McGucket. Get used to that name. Get used to that face. But McGucket's own son doesn't believe him and tells him to leave everyone alone. In fact, nobody believes him except for Dipper. After dealing with the gnomes, anything is possible. Dipper convinces Mabel and Seuss to go looking for the Gobblewonker on Seuss's boat to try and get a photo of it for money and proof of its existence. So after abandoning Stan, we get one of the best prep scenes I have seen in any show.
The #1 problem with most monster hunts: camera trouble. That's why I bought 17 disposable cameras. Oh, dude! You see, this is exactly why you need backup cameras. We still have 16.
Bird!
15. Okay, guys, I repeat, don't lose your cameras.
Wait, lose the cameras?
Don't!
Dude, I just threw 2 away.
13. All right, we still have 13 cameras. 12. We have 12 cameras.
They go looking for the Gobblewonker on the mysterious island, but find beavers with a chainsaw. It seems pointless until the Gobblewonker actually shows up, chasing them until they're cornered in a cave behind a waterfall. The Gobblewonker gets stuck and is revealed to be a mech piloted by one Fiddleford H. McGucket. He says he created this monster to try and gain his son's attention because he doesn't visit him anymore, and that old folk just get lonely, you know? This causes Dipper and Mabel to reflect about how they have been treating their own old guy, deciding to spend their last roll of camera footage with Stan instead, fishing as a family, and evading the lake police. Also, the Gobblewonker might be real? This was a great second episode and really recontextualized a couple things, like how Stan feels isolated from his family and that his boat is called the Stan of War. They cut down on the cutaway jokes as well, even though they were pretty good.
Is this gonna be anything like our last family bonding day?
You call that Ben Franklin? He looks like a woman. Uh-oh.
Oh, the county jail is so cold.
80. The Time Traveler's Pig is a clever title because it is based off the book, then movie, The Time Traveler's Wife. I would used to watch that movie week in and week out on public TV. Shout out to Film 4 for all my UK watchers not able to access Sky Movies. Truly the bargain bin of movie channels. They would play Jumper 24/7. Anyway, The Time Traveler's Pig is the introduction of the best character in the show. Well, the second best character in the show, Waddles. And time travel is a thing. What? So Stan is holding an illegal fair in the woods, as one does.
I printed up a bunch of fake safety inspection certificates. Go slap one on anything that looks like a lawsuit.
Uncle Stan, is that legal?
When there's no cops around, anything's legal.
And there is a mysterious guy sneaking around trying to camouflage into the background. This is Blendin' Blandin' from the year 2012. If you haven't guessed it already, he's a time traveler. That will come up later. For now, the fair is fully underway and Dipper is hanging out with Wendy before she has to leave for reasons. Robbie shows up trying to show off to Wendy and Dipper wants Mabel's help to get rid of him.
Oh my gosh, a pig!
And there he is, old 15-poundy himself. Dipper doesn't realize it yet, but this is the beginning of a very bad day for him. Later, Dipper tries to win a stuffed animal for Wendy, but accidentally hits her in the eye. While trying to get some ice, he bumps into Blendin, causing Robbie to get to Wendy first. I hate the way I said that. Get to Wendy first makes it sound like he's doing something evil. But then again, it's Robbie.
Maybe you wanted to go out with me?
Yeah, I guess so.
Sweet!
Enemy for life. My boy Dipper is so down bad, even hours later, he is still venting to Mabel, wishing he could redo the day again so he doesn't make the same mistake. He spots Blendin and blames him for the reason why he is maidenless. Dipper, you're my guy, but that is not the reason why you got no honeys, bro. Turns out, Blendin is a time traveler. Who could have guessed?
My mission is to stop a series of time anomalies that are supposed to happen at this very location, but I don't see any anomalies.
Dipper steals his time machine, which is basically a futuristic measuring tape, which I think is kind of a unique design that I don't think I've seen anywhere before. So Dipper and Mabel decide to basically Groundhog Day it, and each time Dipper seems to fail, whilst Mabel is just living her best life with Waddles.
If and you could guess
15 pounds! And yes, I am a witch.
Well, time to round up a mob.
Dipper can't seem to figure out why he keeps assaulting Wendy, which out of context sounds like a heinous crime. But I'm sorry to say, Dipper, this might be your canon event. Dipper figures he is missing one key variable, Mabel, and with her help, he manages to win Wendy the stuffed animal and stop Robbie from asking her out. However, there is a casualty. Because Mabel was helping Dipper, in this timeline, Pacifica gets Waddles. Obviously, this causes Mabel to want to go back so she can get Waddles, but Dipper doesn't, because this is the only timeline he doesn't mess it up. This causes them to fight and jump through time, even going back to previous episodes. They even go back far enough to see who is thought to be a younger Stan, when in reality, it's Ford. They end up at the end of time. Just kidding, it's a Portaloo. Dipper tries seeing ahead that Mabel will get over not having Waddles, but after seeing she doesn't, Dipper caves in and goes back in time to undo everything. By the way, Stan is a menace. Instead of consoling Mabel, he just made her a part of the attraction, which is based, now that I think about it.
And if you look to your left, you'll see miserable Mabel, the girl who went bonkers after her dreams were shattered by some heartless jerk. Oh, hey, Dipper.
Mabel repays the favor by getting Waddles to shrink Robbie's pants with hot water. This needs to be a crime in at least one country, but it's Robbie, so we don't care. Blendon finds them and figures out that the anomalies he was sent to go and stop were actually caused by the twins. But before he can do anything about it, he is arrested by the time police. Blendon swears revenge, and he means it. He is punished to clean up all the mess Dipper and Mabel caused across time, so you can actually see him in the background of early episodes if you are looking well enough. This episode is great because it involves my two favorite things, time travel and Waddles. You even get to learn valuable life lessons with Stan. However, this episode does highlight the flaws in certain characters, like how Wendy brings out the worst in Dipper, or how if Mabel doesn't get her way, she will do everything to prevent others from being happy. But that might be a stretch personally.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
A tier.
Turns out I can mute him.
Is this a back-to-back special on time travel episodes? What are the chances? Well, they're actually pretty high since I am the one who's picking the rankings, so... Remember that revenge Blendon was talking about? Well, he's now ready to implement it. After escaping time prison, he invokes Globnar. It's basically a futuristic fight to the death where the winner gets a powerful time wish blessed by the all-powerful time baby. And he knows the perfect people to offer as tribute.
Speak the name and century of those accused.
The two kids that ruined my life, Dipper and Mabel Pines. 21st century.
Meanwhile, back in the present, Seuss shows the twins a trick to get candy out of the vending machine, saying a genius taught him that. Dipper gets a hold of Seuss's wallet and learns that he has a membership card for laser tag, and less importantly, his license. We get to learn Seuss's real name as Jesus Alzamirano Ramirez. I don't know why when I was younger, I thought that his name was actually Seuss, and that his parents just really liked Dr. Seuss books, but they also learned that his birthday is today. Yet no one seems to be celebrating, not even Seuss. But this perfect man deserves a party, so Dipper and Mabel decide to throw him a surprise one. However, Seuss doesn't seem too excited about it. We learn from Stan and Wendy that Seuss hates his birthday, but no one really knows why.
We've tried everything.
I even petitioned the government to have this day removed from calendars. Now I'm not allowed on airplanes.
I wonder how he petitioned. They decide to instead take Seuss to laser tag, since it is one of his favorite activities. But as Seuss ties his shoelaces, Dipper and Mabel accidentally run through a portal to the future where Blendon is gleefully waiting for them. He takes them to Globnar and shows them the horrific fate the loser will suffer once he beats them in combat. Dipper and Mabel, understandingly not having a fight to the death on their to-do list today, decide to steal a tape measuring time machine to try and go back to the present. However, they go a little bit too far back, 10 years back. And with the time machine broken, they have to head to the one place they know they can find tools, the supermarket! Oh, I'm just kidding, it's the Mystery Shack. And it's cool seeing some of the characters 10 years earlier. You can see Toby Determine's failed dreams, the bouncer guy about to get all his misspelled tattoos. Gideon is just being born, being birthed, getting born. Gideon's alive now, okay? He's alive. He's 0. Dipper even gets a taste of his own medicine when he sees a younger Wendy.
My friend thinks you're cute.
I mean, you're super young, so this is weird.
Now you know how she feels, creep.
Yeah, Wow.
You see how weird it is, Dipper? Just move on, man. They get to the mystery shack and Dipper gets to work on fixing the time machine as Mabel sees a little kid in need of some help. She helps the kid using Seuss's moves, and what do you know? The kid turns out to be Seuss himself.
Thanks, dog. You must be some kind of genius.
We also find out the reason why Seuss hates his birthday. It's because of his deadbeat dad. Every year, his dad promises to come to his birthday, and every year, he can't seem to make it. This was the year Seuss realized he's never coming back, ruining his birthday forever. Dipper and Mabel see this and decide to risk their lives to win the time wish so they can make it that Seuss's dad did show up. I thought this would have major consequences and change the present, but the wish is paradox free, so I'm all for it. They give themselves into the time cops that have been looking for them this entire time and proceed to do globnar with blending. There's no easy way to say it. They absolutely wipe the floor with blending to the point I'm like, why did he even show up? Did he even train? And the last game was the only one that matters, so why did we even go through all the others? Before using the wish, they get to decide Blendon's fate. Whoa, Mabel, calm down, okay? You did kind of ruin this guy's life. So they decide to spare Blendon and give him his old job back and give him pretty hair. They take the time wish to Seuss, who uses it to fix them up because his dad never cared to show up for him. But the twins literally fought to the death for him. They're his real family now. At first, I was like, oh, that's so sweet. But then I'm like, you wasted a time wish for this?
I also wished for this slice of infinite pizza. And it can do that for, like, infinity.
Okay, cool. Phew, that's a good time wish.
Oh, I take it back. That's a time wish well spent. Opens up a lot of questions, but well spent all the same. The episode ends with us seeing how Kid Seuss started working for Stan. Unpaid, by the way, but it doesn't matter because he sees him as a father figure and explains why he really cares about the Pines family. This was a very heartwarming episode that shows why Seuss is the greatest human to ever exist. Also, I loved the Rick and Morty tone this episode had, since it was one of my favorite shows once upon a time. We don't talk about the creator. A tier.